Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Randy. Hopefully the recording sounds alright. I'm trying something with my mic. Hopefully it works. Last time, we started investigating, and we have learned that Henri, I think his name is Henry. Henry? I'm not sure. It's kind of a dick of a boss. Made all of his people have, like, personas. And now we're gonna talk to... Oh gosh, what is her name? Ice Girl. Hold on. We give you names. Aston. There we go. Oz Aston. There we go. Now I have the name. About how awful her boss was. Honestly, it was Julia who suffered the most. But that's not to say she didn't deserve that. The Ringleader often said, Julia, I was tricked into hiring that girl. Geller can make things float, but only those close enough she could reach out and touch. If you really think about it, the leader's special ability had to do with soaring through the air, so he must have looked down on her. Also, he always envied Vernon for being the most popular and tried to throw a spanner in his act. I guess they got in quite the yelling match a while back, too. He even tried to put his hands on me once. Fortunately, he stopped right before hitting me. That's all I can think of right now. Could I leave now? Wow. Indeed, you've put yourself through enough. Don't go too far, though. Oh, okay. I'll keep that in mind. The victim was absolute human filth. Honestly, I find myself thinking I'm glad he was killed. That's not something a detective should be saying. No one in this world deserves death. No, I think this guy did. I agree with Dana. Still, so untainted, our Brian. At the very least, the fact he was murdered doesn't seem that odd anymore. In the statement we've collected, I can now see that each one of our three suspects had a motive for killing the victim. Is there a single person in this world who deserves death? That's an interesting topic, but nothing we should be threatening about now. Also, I could think of another one, Enji Todoroki, except that man isn't real. And I could think of several real ones, don't worry. There's not a single person in this world who can truly hide a murder. That's the only important topic for the likes of us. Sergeant, all finished with the business you had to attend to? That I am. Here, a present. Why does his face say collateral? Oh, Jean Henry. Oops. I got the Henry right. What's this? The victim's bureau file. I found it at the nearest gambling den. He must have had urgent business to attend to. Have this bureau file as collateral, and if the bureau had found out about that, he'd have a quick date with Sharon for a ride. I'm not really surprised. I see that Houdin was a confirmed staffer. I guess that was a given, though, since they say everyone here is a staffer, huh? The victim's skill seems to have been that he was capable of object propulsion, so he was firing things off. It looks like he was able to fire off objects within range of him like rockets. The victim, like other suspects, made a show of such skills at the circus. But I mean, this bureau file won't be much use of how things currently stand, so you can ignore that. More importantly, I was listening in on the spork. Have you still not gotten Julia's next statement? We asked her about the visit at 7:30, but she said she wanted to make a statement about that later on. Strange. Aston said she heard the victim snoring at around 8 o'clock. Even if Geller is our culprit, she couldn't have committed the crime at 7:30. Maybe something happened at 7:30 that's difficult for her to talk about. It sounds like you might know something. That's right. Assassin's statement just a moment ago gave me a thought. There's a document that spells out exactly what happened during Miss Geller's 7:30 visit to the scene of the crime. The answer's quite obvious when you stop to think about it. Then show us. If you think something bad happened to Geller, show us the information that proves what it was. Where? Of course, my phone has to go off. I'm wondering if it's this. If it's that, then it might be this. Ah, darn it. I'm thinking it has something to do with this. Let's try this one. Which I'm... Okay. Hold on. Oh. No, he like straight up slapped her, I think. I think this is it. Yeah. Miss Hassan said the victim was almost struck her, correct? That's right. Thankfully, he pulled back, so it remained that he almost struck her. About that. Do you think it was really almost? Excuse me? If you take a look at the victim's hand in a trace photo, you can clearly see signs of an impact. Now that you mention it, I did notice that. I thought it was strange back then, so I made a note of it. What was it from exactly? A sign of a struggle? No. We've confirmed that the victim was alive until 8 o'clock. The blow was struck before then. Well then, where did the trace come from? The trauma to his palm may have come from when he slapped someone, don't you think? People don't normally just slap an assailant when they're being attacked. There's a good chance this is evidence of an unreciprocated blow. No way! Aston said it herself. I never actually hit her. I didn't detect the normal heartbeat during that part of the statement. That may be true. Miss Aston was never struck by the victim. But how about the other troop members? The blow was struck at 7:35. At that time, there happened to be someone else at the scene of the crime. You don't say. It was none other than the clown of the tower, Julia Geller. So when Julia Geller met the victim at 7:30, the victim assaulted her. You think that's the part she didn't want to discuss? If you were a suspect in a murder case, you'd certainly want to hide the truth regarding your conflict with the victim. Also, some people hide the fact that they have been victims of crimes due to self-esteem issues. Reasons aside, note, since you found the truth, Geller now has no reason to withhold her statement. Call in Julia Geller. I wonder if that's why she... Like, I'm sure the eye patch has something to do... I'm just, what's the matter? Miss Geller, let me be straightforward with you so we don't just end up tiring each other out. You entered the scene of the crime at 7:30. Did the victim then assault you? How did you find out about that? We have our ways. Does that mean you're admitting the assault took place? No, we did get into a heated discussion, but the ringleader didn't lay a hand on me. It would be wise for you to tell us the truth. I just told you the truth. He didn't. What might I have done for him to want to hit me? Well, I can't think of a reason why he might have resorted to violence. After all, such an action is beyond justification. Yet, as to why the victim held ill will toward you, we've heard a few things. And the reason the victim held a grudge against you, Miss Geller, might have to do with... Where's Aston's statement? I really like this whole setup. Where it is, you still have to show the information, and it's not just like, oh, we're just gonna give it to you. We heard that the victim often said that he was tricked into hiring you. Oh. Miss Geller, your skill is limited in a number of ways. Thus, there's a limited number of stunts you're able to show us. Did those differ from the victim's expectations? Maybe that's why the victim...
He didn't hit me! He didn't, and... Would the victim of an assault ever say that? Yes. But the thing is also her assailant's dead. So who is she covering?
Like, unless he, like, slammed his hand on the desk and then that was what caused that, like, sculpture to fall, and that wasn't caused by him slumping over in death? I don't know. She's sticking to her guns. Maybe this is about her pride after all. The things must be stifling. The thing must be stifling.
Excuse me?
You're not performing yet. Yet you choose to cover half your face. That mask, do you normally wear it around? Miss Geller, would you mind showing us your face? Could we see what's under the mask? Oh no.
Please keep it a secret from the others.
Can we just not solve this man's murder? Can we just not? Did the victim give you that bruise?
He did, and I'm sorry I hid it from you. I was afraid you might suspect me for the culprit. But more than that, I didn't want the other troop members to find out.
Why didn't you want them to find out? They know the victim was the bad guy, not you.
That's not true. I'm the bad one here.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, we'll hear the details when she makes her statement. Please tell us about your relationship with the victim. Okay, I'll tell you, though I doubt this is the information you're looking for. First, I was making ends meet by holding street performances. That's when I familiarized myself with the stunts I perform on stage these days. Then, one day the ringleader just happened to see those stunts and he asked me to come perform. It was later when I learned that the ringleader was looking for a new troop member with telekinesis and mistakenly assumed I used telekinesis to pull off my stunts. It was because of him that I found my way into the circus, but I was unable to manipulate faraway objects like he was hoping. I tried to hide that fact from him at first, but he ended up finding out. It was natural for the ringleader to have a certain level of detest towards me. I don't blame him for hitting me.
Well, that statement came out completely different than how I was expecting it to. First things first, when you say stunts you performed on stage, what sort of stunts exactly?
They call me the jumping jester, but it's hard to put what I do into words exactly.
You're talking about this? I picked it up near the entrance to the theater, a poster for the tower. So the floating clown up here is you, Miss Geller?
It is. I jump as high as I can into the air and then use my skills to stop in midair. As I repeat the jump and hover, I can climb higher and higher. Once I'm up there, I put on a show like I'm about to plummet to the ground. It's all about eliciting the best reaction from the audience.
Definitely sounds quite complicated. I had better take this poster with me to keep it all fresh in my mind. Also, there's one more detail that concerns me. You said you didn't think much of the victim striking you, right?
It's not that I didn't think much of it, but I can understand why he did it.
You understand? Was he prone to using violence with you? I want to ask outright if she's completely serious about what she said. I'm quite sure that's the case regardless. After all, there were 0 abnormal heartbeats detected during her statement.
This is the first place where I feel like I really belong. All the other troop members share the same wounds as me.
The same wounds?
Even if I were to explain it to you, Detective Case, I hardly think you'd understand. From the moment we're born into this world, every event we staffers go through forms a wound we carry with us. I understand how and why the ringleader became the person he was. It's the same for everyone in this troop.
I doubt Mr. Vernon or Miss Ashton would share her sentiment.
This place is everything to me. Yet, I deceive the people here. It only follows that I should be punished for my deception. I can't read her heart rate because she's not touching the table, but as a seasoned interrogations expert, I can tell you those aren't the eyes of a liar.
I just don't understand. As it turns out, everything that happened at 7:30 was as I expected. However, it's hard to say any of this counts as progress. Something makes me feel like I only know a bunch of information I don't really care to know. I just hope the new statement we just obtained gives us something to go on during the investigation. God damn. I think we've heard all we're going to from our suspects. So, have you solved any part of this riddle? I'm sure that neither Mr. Vernon nor Miss Ashton stepped foot in our crime scene that day, though they both got all the way up to the door. When you're dealing with staffers, murder from a distance is not out of the question. Just standing in front of a room is enough to raise suspicion. When we really step back and look at it, the problem is we still don't know how the victim was murdered. After all, we haven't found our missing murder weapon. But we've got a good deal of clues to go on. It's time we started bouncing ideas off each other. Even if we do start bouncing ideas off each other, which ideas should we start with? First off, we require a means of identifying our suspect. Brian, you remember that favor I asked? Speaking of that case, I mean it's a note now. I have something for you. You really don't need to correct yourself there. Is this another trace photo? That's right. It's a photo I took in front of the ringleader's office. In places with a lot of foot traffic like corridors, it's hard to identify specific footprints, but there weren't many people who stopped in front of the door. Because all of our suspects routinely wear gloves, we had no fingerprints, but we were able to identify the footprints from their foot sizes. From that, we can get an estimate of when the victim was killed. You do catch on quick. So, let's make sure this matches the information we've collected thus far. First off, we've discussed the set of footprints Yulia Geller left at 7:30 more than a few times. These were the first. And that's when Geller was assaulted by our victim. Yet, it doesn't seem as though Geller holds any sort of grudge regarding that. As for the next set of footprints, at 8 o'clock, Oz Aston swung by the room. According to his statement, she didn't enter the room. However, she did say she heard him snoring. We were able to prove that statement true, though. True through Detective Thana's skills, showing that the victim was alive up to that point. Miss Ashton was the last person to witness any signs that the victim was alive. Frederick Vernon visited the room at 8:45. He testified he came at 8:30, but it seems like he was off by 15 minutes. Vernon says he knocked, but there was no response. Thus, we cannot confirm nor deny whether our victim was still amongst the living at the time. The last set of footprints were made at 9, and these were made by Yulia Geller. When Yulia Geller came upon the body of the victim. After that, Ashton and Vernon reached the scene of the crime, but I decided not to mark the print since they aren't pertinent to the case. There is one other piece of trace evidence that stood out to me, so I marked it on the photo. But that's for a matter for a later time. Why is he randomly getting more Eastern European? I don't know. When we put all that information together, we can estimate the time of death for the victim. Somewhere between Oz's visit at 8 when the body was discovered at 9. Somewhere in that 1 hour window, the victim was murdered. The black impressions are the thing that's bugging me the most.
Great, we've got a time of death, so that counts as progress in the investigation, right?
No, I can't agree with you on that. After all, each of our suspects visited the scene within that 1 hour window. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I guess we still don't know anything. I was just about to disagree with myself. We're still clueless, huh?
Oh, what's wrong with her? Just don't mind her. I see. Well, the last person to confirm our suspect was alive was Miss Aston. The first to confirm his death was Miss Geller. Mr. Vernon dropped in time between. The fact that all three suspects can still be suspected of the crime means nothing has changed.
How unfortunate. If we could narrow down that window of time, we might be able to narrow down our list of suspects.
What if the victim was already dead when Vernon visited the scene of the crime? What if we had some way of proving that? If we were truly able to do that, we could clear Geller's subsequent visit and all suspicions it was her. Yet it's not but wishful thinking.
Is it though?
Note, what do you think? Huh? Me?
What do I think? Is there nothing I can raise an eyebrow at?
Is there any clue we've collected so far that can lend truth to her suspicion? If we consider how Miss Ashton was able to confirm the victim was alive, maybe we can make use of the opposite. Okay. So... Okay, where's Vernon's statement? Okay, that was 2 days ago. Oh. I did... I think it's this, the couldn't hear anything. Maybe? Yeah. When Mr. Vernon visited the scene of the crime, he said he couldn't hear even the faintest rustling from inside. Moreover, we didn't detect an abnormal heartbeat when he said that. Indeed. Thus, we have no way of knowing whether our victim was dead or alive at that time. That's not true. There's a high possibility the victim was already dead at that time.
What? What? How could you say that with any certainty?
The memory survey. When the sergeant read the memories of the chair our corpse was found in, she heard the victim's snores. Yes, and the snoring continued before cutting out at one particular moment. Right. And what moment might that have been? The moment the victim was killed.
Isn't that obvious? Do you know of any dead people who can snore?
The important part isn't that the victim stopped snoring. What's important is the fact that the snoring continued until the moment the victim was killed.
Ah, I see. If the victim were still alive when Vernon dropped by the room, he would have heard the snores coming from inside. Yet
he didn't hear a single sound. In other words, when Mr. Vernon stopped by at 8:45, it was after the victim had been murdered. And that means any suspicions we had of Geller and her visiting the scene are seen after her cleared.
No, it's not right. Yulia Geller's skill is indiscernible object manipulation, so she's basically telekinetic, no? Even if she's not standing right in front of the door, she couldn't have killed the victim through a wall or... Couldn't she have killed the victim through a wall or something?
About that. I don't believe Miss Geller could have killed the victim from a distance. You're waiting for now to say that? Note, the reason we weren't able to prove Yulia Geller was the murderer was because of the strange way she approached the victim and the possibility of a murder from a distance. Is there a reason for your change of heart? After arriving here and the things I've heard so far, I believe we could say we have new information on Miss Geller. The information proves that Miss Geller couldn't have committed the murder from a distance. I've got a document that proves it. I think it has something to do with her. Oh, am I already... Oh.
Where?
I think it's this. she wouldn't have been close enough to do it, I think. Aston's testimony. Miss Aston spoke of something regarding Miss Geller briefly during her testimony that piqued my interest.
Right. I remember Aston saying that the victim tormented Geller the most, yes?
Correct. The reason for that being Geller's skill. Geller is able to make objects float. She can't use that power however she'd like. Even if this were a simple case of telekinesis, it would take great power manipulation to kill someone through a wall. But with Miss Geller only able to float some objects, do you really think she'd be able to kill from afar?
Is there a chance that Aston is wrong about all that?
It seems as though these people all use their skills during their performances, so unless they're hiding what they could do on purpose, the possibility she's got the wrong idea is quite low. It turns out that Geller would have needed to get quite close to the victim to commit the murder, so we're back to the original hypothesis. Yet the conclusion this leads us to is the exact opposite. As long as it stands Miss Geller didn't enter the scene of the crime during the window of time, we've confirmed the victim died. Yulia had no means of carrying out the murder. Those squares are the things that are confusing me the most. With this, we can clear Yulia Geller of suspicion. We've narrowed our suspects down to 2. But in the end, until we find out how this victim is murdered, it's going to be impossible to identify our murderer. Still haven't figured out anything about our murder weapon either. We still know nothing about the most important details of this case.
If I may, though I can't say anything for certain, I had a thought about our murder weapon. Maybe our murder weapon wasn't hidden. Do you think it might have actually vanished?
Vanished? It seems that you and I were having the same thought. One of our suspects is able to craft a weapon just like that.
Precisely. It's possible because of the skill that suspect has.
These two are talking about our suspect's skill. Perhaps they're referring to...
Is it Oz? I like her.
Right?
I think it's, I don't want it to be Oz. Oh! Hold on. Oh. I think I had to have the skill and not the note.
A skill able to make a disappearing weapon. It's none other than Oz Aston's chain ice formation, right? In other words, you two think she crafted a weapon from ice?
Precisely. That's precisely what I think. From the state of the corpse, it's clear that the weapon was a heavy, blunt instrument, yes? There's no way of hiding such a thing. It's obvious that it vanished, melting into a puddle. Whoa, I just gave myself gooseflesh. Speaking of puddles, there was one at the scene of the crime, no?
Yet, even if the weapon were made of ice, Miss Aston never opened the door. We have no footprints that indicate she ever entered the premises.
Well, she must have had her ways, no?
Her ways are exactly what we're here to investigate. And there may have been a way around leaving footprints. If you take a look at the trace photo, there were a few square impressions left at the scene of the crime. Yeah, you're right about that. What on earth could have left such impressions? I thought they might have been like little stepping stones made of ice. If Aston were the only to step on blocks she made of ice, it would be possible for her to hide her footprints. It was just a thought, but what do you all think?
Here's my thing. This is my, it makes sense. I don't want it to be Aston. But, why then also have, going at 8 and then coming back at 8:30? I don't know. Oh, as the Americans say, Brian, give me some skin.
Indeed. Well, Sergeant, she seems bothered by something. Okay, let's go with that. Let's say the killer crept in on the ice slabs and killed the victim with a blunt instrument made of ice. What would she do on her way back?
She could just leave them where they were, no? They'd melt anyway.
What if someone went into the room before they had time to melt? Would she have to stay... Oh, is this where, what's his face? This is a combo. Would she have to stand guard in front of the room with the corpse until then?
Well,
if she could have somehow melted them. It's a bit of a logical stretch, but just in case, shall I have them work through this? How could she have melted ice in a jiffy? It's not as though the means aren't there.
it was them working together.
Because also then it would steam. It wouldn't melt. It would steam. But why have that one puddle that melts, but the others are steam? Why not just steam it all? Or do I just have to go with radial ignition? Here we go. If Vernon used his ignition skill, it would have been possible for him to melt it at ice slabs. Indeed, that's the ticket. Aston and Vernon are accomplices in this crime.
Note, give me some skin.
I'll take a rain check.
I'll write you in for 8 o'clock tonight then.
Note, you're not actually entertaining their idea, are you? Don't you think it fits? The water on the floor, it's clear what Aston used for her skill's catalyst.
Then they must have melted the ice they used for the murder weapon with Vernon's skill. That's why the carpet was soaked.
Are there really no holes in Detective Thana and Detective Ryan's reasoning? I should have one more look at the clues they've gathered. Here's my issue. Okay, here's my issue with it. If he can control it so it evaporates into steam, he has enough, there wouldn't have been the puddle for the murder weapon in the first place. There might be something I'm missing somewhere. Was the puddle on the carpet really made when blocks of ice made by Miss Aston melted? I clearly remember Aston's skill having an important difference when compared to other suspects. Let me double check something, because I think it was T, because we had that whole conversation with T, because Pandoria was like, I'm gonna murder you, because we don't like tea. Where is it? Warm tea spilt on it. She can only use it there, but this was tea and not water. Yeah. Aston's innocent. My apologies, but the water left on the floor couldn't have served as her catalyst. Excuse me. What are you saying exactly?
Note, are you a spy?
Please, just have a quick look at Aston's profile. Unlike our other suspects, Aston's skill needs a catalyst. And these catalysts serve as certain conditions that need to be met for her skill to be put to use. In Aston, she needs water to use her skill. Yes, but specifically she needs purified water to use her skill.
Why's that matter?
Read the documents carefully. The liquid at the crime scene was entirely black tea. I see. Black tea is hardly purified water. Miss Aston couldn't have used it as her catalyst.
Then our logic is
hogwash.
I guess it is. Ryan, I'd like to return the skin you slapped me.
Oh, rather unfortunate. I thought our logic to be quite sound. I love how they're so just remorseful high five. Now, she's going on about returns. Logic. Wait, why are they making us hard save? Giving hope to people who've got nothing going for them, only to rip that hope away? Absolutely wicked note. I would hardly say we've got nothing going for us. Did I do something wrong? Well, their logic didn't really have a leg to stand on in the first place. If Aston had made a weapon out of ice, we would have found a large tub to hold all that water. Though I must say, it was rather entertaining. Who's calling who wicked now? One way or another, we've still got the same problem. After all this, we still have no one who could have killed the victim. And that's where you're wrong. As long as we had the victim's corpse on our hands, our killer has to be out there. However, we're considering that every staffer in this troop could be the culprit. We couldn't have missed a smidge of a clue. Then it is all about the ice, huh? You've really got a thing for ice, don't you, Detective Thana? Yet, from the lack of footprints, it's clear that no one entered the room during the time window when our victim died. They couldn't have just flown in. Plus, I simply cannot think of a way for any of them to have committed the crime without stepping foot inside. After all, the range of our suspect's skills are all too short. How on earth did this happen, then? This is the first time all 3 members of our division have used their skills and not been able to find the culprit. So, we have to rely on our 4th member. You're talking about me again. Indeed, you're our newest member, so try your hand. The responsibility shoveled on to the Ricky is more burdensome than I thought. Without her saying all that, I have no intention of giving up at this point. Accepting suicide, we've got a culprit on the loose. However, we've got no clues that the crime scene to go on. Every piece of information contradicts another. Let me think, is there anyone we're leaving out? Someone who could have made the impossible possible. The only possibility we've talked about that seems genuinely feasible is... Okay. Huh. Okay. There was something, though, about him having the debts. Where is Vernon's? Okay, this is my theory. Because we have kind of proven them, I'm thinking it's Houdin. Because he does have the ability to propel objects under 80. So what if he was the one? Because he also had the debt. I don't feel confident with this. I'm gonna try a hint and see. Oh. I was right! Oh. Is it the extra? Okay. Let's do... Oh, shit. Okay. Like, it has to be this? I feel like I'm gonna be like... Hold on. I'm genuinely so confused right now. Okay, what about this? Because I'm thinking he was the one that did this to himself? But I can't figure out, because it's either that... Let's try the threat level. I don't know. Like, I genuinely am not sure. You know what I realized? I'm an idiot. Because I realized I have to be dealing with this. That's what we need. Wait, that wasn't it? Oh. That's it. Okay. There we go. I clicked the wrong one. I can't say for certain, but maybe, just maybe. You say we're looking at all the staffers as possible culprits, but is that really true? Note, you're already well aware of that fact. We've got 3 staffer suspects that were inside the theater at the time of the... No, that's not right. Houdin. Jean-Henri Houdin. He was a staffer too. Houdin? Huh? The victim? And then you're saying it was suicide? There's a possibility, and I think it's worth considering. After all, the victim was buried under a considerable debt. You're quite right. It's a possibility we haven't paid much consideration to. I need some time to think. It works, doesn't it? The victim was the only one at the crime scene within that window of time. It would mean the only person who could kill the victim was the victim himself. And if it really was suicide, that would answer a few of our questions. Like, why was there blood splatter on the ceiling? You think the blood splatter was left when the victim committed suicide? I do. If we're looking at this as a suicide, there are no objections to be raised. No objections? Have you seen the state of the corpse? His skull was caved in. Putting it aside, how could that have happened? If you're saying he killed himself with a blow to the head without leaving behind the weapon he used to do it, there's simply no way it can be possible. Is that so? You raise a fair point. What do you think about that note? If I'm going to support my suicide claim, I need to refute Detective Bryan's objection. I'm not sure of myself, but if it wasn't suicide, there may be a clue that could be used to refute my hypothesis. However, if my claim of suicide is correct, I may be able to shatter both of their objections. We're at a crossroads here. I need to think this through and come up with a proper rebuttal. I need to remember when this is here. That means I'm doing this. This is what I'm thinking. He proposed... So I'm going to take that. Hold on. Shoot. Print this out. Refute Bryan. I think... Okay, shit. Hold on. Oh, I had the wrong file. I think. Yeah. Perhaps we don't actually need one. One what? One detective? You mean Bryan? Where's this coming from? Not him. I mean a murder weapon. If the victim really did commit suicide, there may have been no murder weapon. After all, he didn't really need one. Could I ask you to explain your logic? As Detective Bryan postulated, someone bashing their own head would normally be an impossible feat. However, the victim is no normal person. The victim was able to pull off a feat impossible for anyone else. You're talking about his skill? Speaking of which, what was his skill again? High-velocity object propulsion. Simply put, he was able to fire off objects at will. At the scene of the crime, we found darts and playing cards deeply embedded in his dartboard. Must have used his skill to let those fly. So he used his skill to commit suicide? Aha, so perhaps if he shot a heavy load over his head and let it fall back on top of him. Not a bad theory, but it doesn't solve the mystery of the vanishing weapon. What if the heavy object was a piece of ice? Okay, this is obviously not the answer. He had the means of doing the deed without having to go through all that trouble. If you go back to the previous witness statements, you can see how the victim normally used his skill. And using his normal methods, the victim commits suicide without leaving behind a weapon. Because what the victim actually fired upward was himself. Oh, shoot, that's not it. But that's the only thing. He's able to project... Was it the pigeon? Did he use the fucking pigeon? Hold on. Because we still don't have an answer for the feather. Oh, Hold on. There we go. Members of the troop mentioned their leader's specialty a number of times. They said he could do nothing but leap high into the air, especially with leaping. If you look at this statement, you can clearly see how the victim primarily used his skill. Leaping. But the victim's skill was propulsion, no? The range of the victim's skill was less than 1 centimeter. If he could launch any object within that range, isn't it possible that he could also launch himself? But the weight, because it was 80 kilograms, which means like 160, 170. Is it safe to say that he weighed that much? So you're saying he could launch his body on his own and just fly off? That was the stunt he performed. Sounds dangerous. If he messed up the power of his leap even a little bit, he could say goodbye to his legs on the landing. But this time it was the victim's head, not his legs, he said goodbye to. It certainly doesn't seem like he misjudged the leap and landed on his head, though.
But what about the pigeon?
Since the victim's goal was to end his life, the landing didn't really matter. It would have been enough for him to just shoot straight up at top speed. Then his head smacked into the ceiling. Indeed, you're claiming that the victim intentionally collided with the ceiling. If that's the case, it's no wonder there's no murder weapon.
That's why note said we didn't need one, right?
He was talking about a murder weapon.
Well.
That explains the unnaturally large amount of blood on the ceiling. I noticed that too. I couldn't see if there was any trace evidence left there since it was covered with blood. But perhaps you're talking about the blood that came from the body crashing into the ceiling? That the victim wasn't killed when something hit him. Instead, the victim's body was the murder weapon. The vanishing weapon, the missing footprints from our unknown assailant. All of the mysteries surrounding this case could be explained when you consider that it was a rather unique form of suicide. The victim took his own life. It could all be chalked up to suicide.
But what about the pigeon? And then the blocks. We still don't have an answer for the blocks and the pigeon.
The ringleader at the tower, Jean-Henri Houdin, was a man with a dark side. He was known to resort to violence when dealing with his employees, and it was only getting worse in recent days. The reason was that the victim had a horrible habit. His crippling gambling addiction left him buried under a mountain of debt. We can't know how much debt he was in for sure, but if we consider that he put his bureau file up for collateral, I think it's safe to say that the victim had his back against the wall. Mr. Houdin was running out of options. He could try to keep trudging through life, carrying his debts with him, or possibly be caught and punished for putting his bureau file up as collateral. He could do that, or he could end things on his own terms. That was his final choice. Even in ending his life, he chose the path that remained true to himself. He used his own acrobatic stunt to end his life. Houdin used his propulsion, the skill that he had been using to launch himself around the stage to allow his body to soar. Just looking at the dartboard at the scene of the crime, I could see how dangerous his skill could be if used on the human body. That was probably why he always controlled the strength he put into his skill, but this time was different. He propelled his body upward at full strength. Mr. Houdin soared straight towards the ceiling. Then he fell. After that, Skeller entered the office, discovered the body, and told the others of their leader's death. That's the truth behind this case.
So, he killed himself.
The ringleader, right up to the very end.
I mean, it just can't be. That man, our leader, he couldn't have killed himself.
Stop, Oz. With this, it's over.
You're right. It's over. This is how it ends. alright? I'm fine. It's just...
It's not your fault. The ringleader's death was his own decision.
Come now, everyone. Let's pull ourselves together. Even without our leader, this place isn't gone.
And just like that, our case comes to a close. Not the most exciting way to conclude things.
Well, murder cases often end with such feelings. However, this may have been the best ending for everyone.
Huh?
In the end, none of the three turned out to be a murderer, and we won't have to see anyone hurt anymore. Those three will be able to put their trust in one another and continue on. Note, you did this.
Are you sure? Did I really? I hope that's the case. Truly, I do.
We still never got the answer about the pigeon or the feather.
But that's case closed. One case down. And at least one more. Again, if you want me to continue this game, please let me know. Wait, we have more? I was about to just do my outro. You said case closed.
Good, just like that, we'll summarize the events as they occurred.
I just have to write it out like this?
That should be sufficient. Now we just need to sign at the bottom, and that's that. When you're done with that one, fill this out. Fill out this one.
Huh? Isn't this the same document we just filled out?
That last document was our report to Detective Chief Inspector. This is what we will send to the police. Try to avoid referencing skills as much as possible when you fill this one out.
I guess city people have their fair share of inconveniences, too. Does anyone have any supernatural powers that allow them to automatically fill out paperwork?
They're not supernatural powers.
Right, I know. Their skills, right. Being supernatural powers makes them sound cultish.
Indeed, you are catching on. Note, the first time we met, I was quite disrespectful. And I still haven't apologized for that, have I?
Stop. You really don't need to apologize.
Then I guess I won't. Hiring you on was the right decision.
Thank you?
Congratulations! Congratulations, 'cause you solved the case. I'm not singing anymore.
Apologies for the late return. Did you have a lot of work to do?
It did take longer than expected. Were the roads congested? About that, we were late because we had to pick up this.
A cake?
Indeed.
It's a bit of a welcoming gift and a celebration of the first case you solved. It's for me?
Come now, we are completely blown away. We had no idea you'd solve such a complicated case. I guess the chief gets a few things right every once in a while.
It's quite fortunate we had you on the case today. Note.
It's got happy birthday written on it. This was the only one they had left. Come now, it's a cake. What's written on it isn't important. Here, no, blow out your candles.
Huh? Okay.
Cheers! Bloody terrific. This whole affair.
No, it really is a birthday party. Note, I do apologize. I'll make you a proper cake later on. Huh? I'm not angry or anything. It's just I've never been welcomed like this. Actually, I had a similar thought to yours. I'm just glad to be part of the Man Affairs division. Right, I see. Well then, shall we eat? I'll go fetch something to cut it with.
My word. Doesn't that just warm your heart?
We've got a lot to look forward to.
And now we're officially... speaking of which, note, this game won't give me a break. When's your actual birthday?
I'm not really sure.
Huh?
I'm an orphan. I never knew my parents. Pardon. Even my name, No Trick, was given to me by my previous employer. Oh, what's wrong with everyone? Nothing at all. Oh, what happened to all that energy from before? No, you're here to start the show. You should be enjoying yourself. Huh? It's not really my... Here, take this. I can't sing in a British accent. Don't. Congratulations, because you solved the case. We are looking forward to working with you, truly. Brian's awkward attempt at singing continued until Dana gave him a swift kick to the shin. If I had to rate it, I'd say my welcoming party left a rather synthetic taste in my mouth. But just like that, I became an official member of the Amanda Affairs Division. There was no question that I felt fortunate to be welcomed on as a full-fledged member. I found my place here. I also found myself thinking more exhaustingly tedious jobs were right over the horizon. But as I sat there writing the report for the incident, a rather disturbing thought took hold of me. The thought that maybe suicide in such circumstances was simply impossible. But the case was already closed. Everyone already got their happy ending. And maybe that's all right. Yeah, the guy was a douche. Wait. There's options? There are options. Hold on. I know this is getting long. I want to know. Can't say for certain. Okay. Hold on. There's multiple paths. I did not know that there were multiple paths. Oh my gosh. Oh no. There is an alternative. And it's here. I was saying it is Geller. Wait! Okay, oppose Brian. Is it this one? Hold on. Okay, let's try this, because the pigeon has still bugged me. Okay, I can't figure it out. You know what? As much as I love... Can I not get out of this? Am I stuck in this forever? Oh my gosh, I might... Okay, I think I'm stuck in this forever. Hold on. Okay. Is it here's the thing. I cannot figure out what this is. But I'm gonna end the episode here. Hope you guys enjoyed. We're just gonna end things off happily. Screw you, note. Next time we will be tackling... I love how you can't leave this. Let's see if I can do it this way. Oh. How do I get out of this? Okay, I don't think I can get out of this. I think you're just stuck in this. Next time we will be taking on case 2. We're not going to focus on the fact that there could have been an alternative ending that maybe put some more things correctly. We're not going to pay attention to that. I really enjoyed this, if you can't tell. We will be taking on the rest of case 2, and let me know if y'all want to see more of this after that. But hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.